Hello, hello, friends. I'm Tina Hex.
And I'm Metalama.
And it looks like we are going to be having some, what is this? La-Mulana, which is Spanish, I believe, for the Mulana. But for anybody who's not super familiar with this game, the basic premise of this game is somebody said, hey, what if human mythology was actually real, sort of? To which you said, well, which one? And to that was yes. It's a pretty cool puzzle platformer. There's a lot of just puzzles that we're mostly not going to see, which makes it real fun. At the start, you're going to see a lot of just story flags are going to be flipped so that be made real quick. And the first 7 minutes or so are just going to be a sprint to the first boss.
This game is the sequel to the first game, which was originally released as I guess, a tribute to MS-DOS games. But there was a remake.
Games, actually.
MSX.
It was, yes. It was originally in the style of old MSX games, which was a computer that was particularly popular in Japan, which themselves were pretty famous for high difficulty, pretty punishing gameplay, and so on. So one of the things that we've already seen here, there's going to be a bunch of pots that you're going to see routed in. This run requires a ton of gold, so part of the run is memorizing exactly which pots you need to break so that you can get high amounts of gold. Additionally, right after opening chests, you're going to see the runner is going to jump. It's frame perfect, but you can skip item pickup animations. Also, you're going to see swinging weapons when placing weights on pedestals. Again, that's for animation skips.
So, in case you missed it, that was the first sort of mini-boss of the game. We're at a Tosker. That name is from Norse mythology, and we'll be seeing that. I'll probably refer to him as Squirrel pretty frequently. We'll be seeing him a couple more times, but we have already beaten him once now.
Yeah, but he'll be showing up a few more times. Thankfully, this game has fantastic music, and for the most part, a lot of the gameplay is going to stand on its own. We're going to be explaining things that are important that are coming up, which is that you're going to see stuff like that. But for the most part, we're going to be able to kind of sit back and let you enjoy the gameplay and definitely the music, which is particularly strong in this game.
Alright, now is essentially a 45-second cutscene. This is a pretty boring part of the speedrun, especially early on. But you get the nice title scroll. Nigoro made this game. How long was this game in development, Tina?
Oh gosh, I should know this. It came out on December 1000 something because the release date ish was sort of soft announced in a tablet in the first La-Mulana, and they overshot by a little bit. But yeah, this was in development for a very long while. Super worth it. The game is absolutely brilliant if you enjoy this style of game.
If I remember, they had a it was essentially like a Kickstarter type thing, but they had kind of ran through their money, if I remember right, and so they were essentially working on their own dollar while they finished it up. Alright, so we are in the first main area of the game, which is the roots of Yggdrasil, which is the name of the world tree in Norse mythology. And this is sort of the main hub area, I guess. It's not really the hub, but like this is
it's your first hub. There's some branching paths here to go to different areas. There are going to be other spots where it's also going to behave as a hub. this entire the whole dungeon is just very maze. It's super duper maze.
And yeah, that sort of was a Pikachu. Official name is a Carbuncle, but I mean, I think of it myself as a Pikachu.
Yeah, this game has Pikachus and evil Pikachus. And coming up, we're about to see our first clip. This game, when you change costumes in the air, weird things happen with collision. We're going to see a lot of that throughout this run. A lot of Japanese runners tend to run glitchless. It's really exciting to see the work that's been put in by the Japanese runners on the routing in the glitch category as well. And yeah, so this is super, super exciting to see. Dagashi has done amazing work on this game.
So this is the first boss. The name is, oh gosh, Fafnir. And actually, this is something I learned recently, but this boss telegraphs where it's going to attack first. Where it rears its head from, it's going to attack there first. So it can either attack from the left or the right based on how its neck moves. And that's why Dagashi is able to get these quick 2 hits with the whip to clear each cycle pretty quickly. That is not quite apparent on your first playthrough, though. Otherwise, it seems like, why is it attacking from the right side that time or the left side this time? So that's why Dagashi is able to get these really quick cycles here. You're not too worried about damage here, because if you know what you're doing, you have more than enough health to tank. And especially at the end of each boss, you will get a full health refill.
Yeah, this is one of those bosses where if you're not playing in hard mode, it's fairly hard to die. You have to do some work to take enough damage to die.
Well, especially if you're as good as Dagashi. I don't know. In my runs currently, I definitely take some extra health upgrades than Dagashi would take.
Yeah, Dagashi's route, I think, maxes out at 96 health, which is pretty lean. When I was working on the run, I was sticking at 128. But yeah, it's real fun to watch. So Dagashi did just pick up the first of 12 MacGuffins that we're going to need to get in this game. You have to collect 12 crystal skulls. Again, what if all of humanity's mythology was real? Which mythology? Yes.
I mean, that's only one specific MacGuffin, though. That's one class of MacGuffin, you know? Because there's many other classes of MacGuffin if we have to go that far, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of which, we are currently watching Dagashi fight Hugin and Moon, and what Dagashi picked up there was the first runic point allow Dagashi to, you're going to start seeing some little symbols on the walls light up, and now that we have this first seal, we're going to be able to see those broken, which opens up more into the gameplay.
Yeah, there are 4 such seals that you can collect. The first 3 we will be able to pick up pretty early on in the run, but the 4th one comes about midway through the run, and that will open up possibly our highest damage melee weapon. If you've seen La-Mulana 1 runs, the remake especially, that was released on Steam and other platforms, you will see a lot of, the melee weapons used more. But in this game, there are some other high damage methods that will be used for some of the later bosses.
Yeah, one of the really funny things, if you're a fan of both games, in the first game, there are some items that kind of, they're known for being not great. The katana, not super great. The spalder, super duper extra not great. In this game, those games are basically exactly. And in this game, those items are basically broken. They're so good.
All right, that is Mulbrook, aka the waifu of this game. I hope that everybody ships Lumisa, our main character, and Mulbrook, because they would be wonderful together. She is asleep in the first ruins. She is one of the ancient race. I guess what we could call the 8th children. No, wait, that was 7th children.
7th children. The 8th children are humanity.
Regular humans. But Mulbrook, after being freed from regular old La-Mulana, the original ruins, she has been able to explore the real world. This is set in what is called Yggdrasil, which is sort of the, I guess, the first child in a sense. It is a sort of additional body of the mother. And we killed the mother in the first game. We have eliminated the mother, but the mother's consciousness lives on. And we're trying to make sure the mother doesn't try and...
The story is, there's a lot here. So...
Yeah, I know I'm already sort of being a little bit...
And here comes our first costume clip. We can get back to lore in a moment. These clips are particularly dangerous. It looks like
he got the first
Dagashi
one.
had to reposition. And then it looks like we got through just fine.
Those clips are pretty scary because it is very easy to get crushed by the wall instead of transport through the wall. And by crushed by the wall, I mean you instantly die and go back to your last quick save or hard save point. Usually it's the quick save point. And since the last time we had saved had been up here in a Newfen, that would waste a lot of time. So thankfully you got that first try. Obviously, when you're a early runner, that's a lot more scary than someone like Dagashi, who has the world record and has been running this for, I'd assume, a decent amount of time.
Yeah, Dagashi's been pretty active basically the entire time that this has been out. There's been a bunch of us who were early runners who've kind of picked it up and put it down, and Dagashi's just stayed active, and it's been really wild to watch the work that has been put in.
Yeah, I am a runner who has only recently picked up the game in like the last 2 months or so, but at least in the last little while, I believe it's only been, I guess, me, I thought, and then Dagashi, as he has de-rusted this run, has been the only active runners for at least the last little bit. So this is not a very active game, but it definitely has its runners, and hopefully we can get some more runners as well.
Yeah, so this is as good a time as any to mention. The La-Mulana Discord is good for both La-Mulana 1 and 2 speedrunning if you're interested in either of these games. The communities are, while relatively small, this is no Super Mario Brothers, they're just great. They're full of great people. Okay, so now we can mention front side and back side warps. People who have played La-Mulana 1, it's not going to be a surprise to hear me say that. There are three different types of warp points really in this game. One of them is front side warps, which is what you've seen getting warped to already. There are also what are called backside warps, which we need some special software to warp to. We're going to see Dagashi picking that up pretty soon. And then finally there's totem pole warps, which you need to get a totem pole to be able to warp to. We'll see that a little bit later on. But for right now, Dagashi is just, he's kind of beating up Loki and chasing Loki around, and that's going to cause the next boss to spawn. And yeah, we're going to see that happen pretty soon here.
It's interesting in that for La-Mulana 1, each front side area has a backside area. And so there's sort of this yin and yang to the front and back side, whereas in this game, it's not as... There's not really a backside for every front side. Some of them are related, but some of them are just...
Yeah, the way that the ruins are put together is just wild, and it makes sense once you solve one of the major puzzles in the game, but gosh, there's it's
Are
easy
you
to get
talking
very
about the
lost until you
Brahma
understand it.
map puzzle?
Yes, indeed.
That's a very typical puzzle that is not required to beat the game, but if you do beat it, you'll understand how complex these ruins are and how complex they are put together. Alright, so we are coming up to the second main guardian, as we could call them. There are 9 main guardians. This one is called Vritra. This one is not too difficult because we have a weapon called the Earth Spear, which we picked up in the Immortal Battlefield. If you're trying to beat this game without sub-weapons, this boss can be quite annoying. Thankfully, we are not trying to go for a sub-weaponless achievement. So, we have just defeated that boss right here. Dagashi did a very quick job of obliterating him.
Yeah,
So we have 2
the
guardians
strats with
down
this
now.
boss are really interesting because of how many different routes we've taken for this boss. At one point, we were using the gun because the gun does a ton of damage. For a while, I was trying to do knife kills because the knife does also a lot of damage. The Earth Spears are probably what the developer intended. A lot of the speed strats in this game have kind of made their way into let's find really goofy ways to break the game, and then sort of veered back into, well, maybe we can do the developer intended solutions, but just not be bad.
Okay, so I guess you had enough coins to purchase the gun there. The gun is the single most damaging sub-weapon in the game. Well, actually, even among, like, the regular melee weapons, it is the most damaging. But there are only 6 bullets per clip, which means that it's a rare commodity. And so normally
the
that
gun,
means...
relatively inexpensive. Bullets, however, very expensive.
For most bullets, say if you buy bullets in the village, they cost 500 gold. Magazine clip, it's the same thing in my stupid brain. But it costs a lot of coins that we'd rather not spend to purchase a whole new set of bullets. So we're gonna try and avoid to do that, and thankfully there is definitely a way to avoid that, but we'll get to that in a bit. This is one of the biggest early items that we can get, which is the feather, which gives you double jump.
Yeah,
Got that pot
there
clip
have been
right
a
there.
bunch of different ways that we've done that sequence break. Early on, we would get here in a different way than what we saw Dagashi doing, and get on that lower level and use a item that Dagashi will be picking up soon, which lets you hang from walls and damage boost off of one of those enemies into the area with the feather, which is exactly as much fun as it sounds. Turns out costume clipping, though, way faster, actually consistent, which is a bonus.
But yes, Void Lily, this run is on 1.0. A lot of these glitches are only able to be performed on the first version of this game because that was the most glitchy.
Yeah, there's the difference in versions in terms of glitches is particularly interesting. A lot of the later releases did have interesting glitches that we haven't been able to reproduce in 1.0, which is a bummer. Later on, we're going to be making use of a rotating room and despawning some, well, despawning an entire room, basically. And
oh gosh, that's
there's
a fun
much
glitch.
easier way to do that glitch in a later version, but costume clipping is broken. So
Void Lily, if you do manage to join the La-Mulana Discord, there is instructions for how to do that. It is a little bit complicated to be able to download a version of 1.0, but I would very much recommend joining the La-Mulana Discord. There are some instructions for how to download that. If you want to do like a full glitchy version of the speedrun, it is essential that you download 1.0.
yeah.
All right.
So the question, of course, is how do you get 1.0 since they've been patching the game? The short answer is with Steam, you can get 1.0 relatively trivially. It's not too bad. So we are coming up on our next mid-boss.
We were able to pick up the software Snapshot, which allowed us to scan the wall in order to pick up a new software, which is the mantra software, which is terribly essential. If you are familiar with La-Mulana 1, you know that mantra are only mostly reserved for the end part of the game. Mantra are only barely used and mostly just for the biggest end section. Whereas in this
not
game,
so in this game.
yeah, you get the mantra early, you get the mantra app early, and then you also get a lot of different mantra which are kind of essential for unlocking certain puzzles. So this game definitely refines and uses mantras a lot more. And a lot of these mantra puzzles are able to be solved by reading various tablets. And here he needs to warp back to a Newfin so he can go to a new area, which would be, I believe it's called Graveyard of the Frost Giants.
I believe that's right.
It's somewhere close to that. And essentially this part is, we're going to be collecting a few things along the way, but this is where we pick up the next 2 seals.
Additionally, Dagashi did just pick up the claw, which is why Dagashi is able to hang on walls. You'll notice that when Dagashi jumps off of the wall with the claw, he's going real fast. And one of the early bugs in the game you're seeing him do just now is that you can use your double jump and continue accelerating horizontally with that claw speed. You're going to see that used later on to sequence break again. But just in general, that's good movement. It's super fast. It feels real good to do.
Oh yeah. You just need to make sure that you let go of the direction that you're heading so you can maintain the momentum. If you hold the direction you're going, it'll lock you to your normal horizontal momentum. So here, Dagashi is completing a puzzle here to unlock this chest. This chest contains another Ankh Jewel, which is, you need an Ankh Jewel to be able to fight another boss. And so there are 9 of these Ankh Jewels scattered around the ruins. So that is obviously something that is completely necessary in order to beat the game. And at this point, we are now going to work on getting the other seals. So the first seal that you obtain is called the Origin Seal. The second seal here that Dagashi will be collecting is called the Life Seal, and then right after that we'll warp back to what was called the Ice Fire. What's it called? Ice Fire something or other. And the Life Seal will be obtained there. So yep, Icefire Treetop. There we go. But after we get this seal here, to fight the next boss, we need to collect a few things. The first thing is that the next boss, which is Kujata. Oops. Okay, glad he was able to land on that platform there, otherwise that could be really scary, because if you land in the lava, you will take a lot of damage there. But now we are collecting that life seal here. There we go. Dagashi got it there. And we'll be warping back. We will need to go to the Divine Fortress in order to collect a ship. Because Kujata requires a ship to ride on in order to be able to fight that boss.
Yeah, playing through this casually, it's real great the first time that you get to Kujat, and you're like, all right, time to fight a boss, and then you just fall to your death. It's fun, actually.
Thankfully, I was able to figure out I need that thing before I fight the next boss. So we are collecting that ship right now. In other routing possibilities, you're able to get another Sacred Orb, which is the item that increases your max HP. But Dagashi, being the incredibly good player that he is, does not collect a lot of those extra health. And here we are starting to scan what are known as mantras, which we will be able to use at a variety of different points in order to progress and complete puzzles. Here's another pot clip here, which is... This one's not as dangerous. Oh, he fell all the way to the bottom. But you'll still be able to get into this next room. It's important to go into this room regardless because you need to collect that 50... Oh boy, I guess he died there. Spikes can deal a lot of damage.
Yeah, so spikes are going to deal damage based on your max HP. So their damage scales as your health does. One of the differences between this game and the first La-Mulana is now when enemies hit you, they send you straight into spikes, and spikes will not respect any iframes that you have. It's good.
It's... Good is a word. It's not the right word, but it is a word, yeah. It's not the most pleasant thing to die to those. But essentially right now we are collecting a few items and activating some few things so we can do more puzzles here in the Immortal Battlefield.
Shoutouts to Curry Time.
Yes, there is a app that is called Alert, and we will not visit the tent at all in this speedrun at all. The main character of La-Mulana 1 is, oh gosh, what's his name again?
Lameza.
Lameza.
Yes, so to give you some backstory, in La-Mulana 1, you are Lameza, and you are chasing after your dad, Shorn, who is lost in the La-Mulana ruins. In this game, you're Lumisa, chasing after your dad and your grandfather, Lameza, and Shorn, who are lost in the Yggdrasil ruins.
Are they really lost, or are they just saying, like, we'll just explore this area?
You know.
For adventurers, being lost is sort of being found. So
they disappeared. They disappeared in the ruins. They're probably dead. You are generally only supposed to see like little glimpses of them. Normally, you enter the screen where they were sitting there making curry. You see them in like this cutscene where then they run away because they hear you approaching. And
however, we're approaching from the wrong direction, so they just sit there in place. So we were able to collect there what is called the Lantern of Time. If anyone recalls from La-Mulana 1, you do not acquire that item till a good midway through your playthrough. However, with the unintended mechanic of being able to double jump out of a grapple jump, a claw jump, you can easily
Yeah, you just bypass the puzzle.
clear that chasm and be able to acquire that item early, which will be very useful for especially some of those Ratatosker bosses that we will be seeing more of later.
Indeed. And so now we're in Gate of the Dead. The whole deal with Gate of the Dead is that you can flip this entire place upside down. It's fun. It's really, really clever the first time that you play through, and you're just kind of working your way through it blind. Obviously, Dagashi knows exactly where to go, so you're not going to see a lot of trying to find his way through the maze.
A lot of places you will need to visit and then revisit and then possibly even revisit again to be able to collect everything. Thankfully, we gain most of what we need here in one visit, and then the next visit will just be, we just placed a weight on that spot there to unlock a chest that we'll acquire later. But possibly the most important thing we do here is talk to Horus here. Now, Horus is just, some guy for the most part.
No,
as
he's
far
great,
as you know.
and I hope that he lives a long, happy life and nothing bad ever happens to him.
Nothing bad at all. But you need to talk to him in order to be able to fight one of the upcoming guardians. If you do not talk to Horus in that regard,
apparently kind of a jerk.
Well, Aten-Ra is not exactly the nicest person. Alright, you were talking about that glitch where you are able to jump or attack on the same frame in which you acquire an item. Dagashi was able to do that right there. He was able to acquire what is that called again?
That would have been the... Oh gosh, was that the gauntlet? It gives you...
No. This is the one that allows you to have a double swing. It's one of those. Nah, it's not the ring. Vajra.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm not going to try and remember that name. That allows you to have a upswing and a downswing.
Yeah, so now melee attacks are going to be much better.
And now we are back in Newfin. We were able to talk to the Fairy King Frey, who we need to talk to in order to fight the next boss, Kujata. And as Tina mentioned, there are a set of 12 MacGuffins that we'll need to acquire, and skulls are those, and we were able to collect the second one there. It's an opportune moment in to be able to get that there.
Yeah, a lot of this run is really clever routing and just figuring out the optimal times to make your passes through a given area so that you can do as much as possible. So delaying things like picking up that skull where we probably could have done things in a different order and gotten it quicker, or delaying things like doing bosses so that we can make use of various items or power-ups is a lot of what's gone into routing this run.
So yeah, we just talked to the Fairy Seer there. We needed to talk to her twice in order to spawn the Ankh for Kujata. We need to talk to Frey, the Fairy King, in order to be able to talk to her and for her to spawn that important item there.
Yeah, and a little bit of routing history there. It's also possible to, internally, there's a score counter as you get more items and stuff like that. It's possible to get too high of a score and to lock yourself out of being able to talk to Frey to set one of the game flags internally, so that's also a consideration. It's fun.
Really? Is that like in an older version of the game where if you collect too many items before you talk to Frey?
Yep. It's a I think probably one of the better known soft locks in this game.
I mean, like, the modern patch has a lot of these soft locks and such patched out. I've encountered some variety of soft locks as I've speedran the game on 1.0, because 1.0 obviously is the most glitchy. It allows us to sequence break a lot of things, but that also means that there are more things that could possibly soft lock the game, and hopefully we will not see any of those, because that would be bad.
Yeah.
So
this
as
is
I said
another one of those
before-
bosses. Early on, we're trying to delay it as much as possible so that we could use a power-up that we'll get later on, where we can have infinite ammo for the gun, and we would try and just make use of as many bullets as possible while they're free. But now, as you can see, Dagashi has it routed so that Dagashi's going to end at 1 bullet, and that 1 bullet is going to last for the rest of this run. It's really, really impressive.
You do 2 bullets for the boss Needhog, which allows us in Yggdrasil to be able to access ice fire treetops, and the other 3 bullets we use on Kujata. And then because there is something later in the game which will allow us to have an infinite amount of sub-weapon ammo while it is active, essentially, which means as long as we have 1 ammo of any sort of sub-weapon, we can fire it endlessly, which essentially we use to break a lot of the other Guardians. And
Yeah,
it
at this
becomes
point,
quite broken.
further Guardian fights are pretty much going to be boss rushes, and it's going to be fun.
Alright, and we are acquiring here an item called the Dinosaur, which I guess for some reason these people in this area consider that a holy item.
Yeah,
And
it's
that will
just
allow us to
it's a
be
holy dinosaur.
quite holy. And we'll be able to use that in order to talk to a certain somebody who will allow us to access the next boss that we'll be facing, a boss called Jormungand, which is sort of a reference to a boss in La-Mulana 1, but we will be getting to that relatively soon. Alright, here we acquired a second save spot here in the ice fire treetops. This would be more of the icy area than the hot area. There's a fake door there, or fake wall there that we are able to access. And that is very essential for being able to get another mantra. We are trying to collect all the possible mantras, because we will need all of them in order to even just beat the game. Skepticon, this game is just presented in Japanese, right? Dagashi is Japanese. There are a variety of different languages, I'm guessing, but there's definitely
there's plenty of
English
language
release.
options. English was one of the languages that was available at release, but just a reminder to everybody, this is RTA in Japan, which is a marathon that is taking place in Japan. So this is the English restream, but we're not quite able to change the language of the games for you on the restream.
So we were just able to collect the moon mantra there. We needed the sun mantra, which we had received a little bit earlier. And we had collected that dinosaur statue in order to access this area here. And this guy here is called Indra. And he will spawn the Ankh for the next boss, Jormungand. We needed that dinosaur in order to access him, and it will be used one more time in the speed run, except that will be way at the end of the game.
Yeah, much later. So here we're going to, we got this item a long time ago through a cutscene. Uh, it changes the way that these doors point. These doors have a certain directionality to them. You can see the little dial on top of the door turning whenever you use that item. And this gives us a way to travel in between various areas of the game. It's just another way to quickly travel, and it gives us access to some spots that are otherwise not accessible at all.
So here we are setting up to fight a boss here. We cannot damage this boss with our normal weapons, so we must push these ice blocks in order to damage this thing. 3 ice blocks is enough to be able to kill it. This is an alternative entrance to the grave of the frost giants, but it will allow us to access another
Shrine of the Frost Giants. Yeah.
Shrine of the Frost Giants. Yeah, I'm remembering Grave of the Giants from La-Mulana 1. There's a couple very useful things that we'll be able to acquire from this area. The first of which here is a non-required item to beat the game, but will definitely increase our DPS by a large margin. It's called the Gauntlet. That will allow our attack speed with our melee weapons to increase substantially. And if you might have seen earlier, Dagashi set different mantras. Oh, good. We got that. That's a little bit scary there to be able to get across that gap. But he had set the mantras. Heaven.
That's another one of those really scary parts in the.
That can definitely kill a run there. There we go. But he had set the mantras. I believe it was Heaven, Earth, and Moon, and he was able to chant that in front of that statue there in order to melt the ice throughout all of the Shrine of the Frost Giants.
Oh, really good luck with those pedestals. They are very slow and waiting for them.
Nice. Yeah, he has 0 weights right now, which is exactly what he needs. You might not think weights is an important thing to worry about in this run, but oh wow, he got that boss there in one cycle too.
Very good fight. If it sounds like we're impressed with this run, it's only because we are.
Yes, there is weight routing in this game, as well as there is money routing. The money routing will come into focus much later, but for right now, we need to have 0 weights at exactly this time and point. Oh gosh, that's not good. Alright, that wasted a little bit of time. He fell all the way down to this room below, but he'll be able to go up above.
Yeah, this isn't too terrible.
No. But essentially, there is a specific puzzle in, I believe it's the Dark Star-Lord's Mausoleum.
Yes, although I think in this early patch of the game, it is the Dark Lord's Mausoleum.
Dark Lords, yeah. I remember that it's in a more modern patch that is Dark Star-Lord, which just makes me...
Yeah, it turns out they...
Star-Lord.
Yeah. It originally was just called the Dark Lord's Mausoleum, which made it really easy to misunderstand one of the puzzles in the game, so they changed that.
So we used another pot clip there. Dagashi used another pot clip there to be able to skip placing all those weights there. And this is a boss called Balor. It might remind you of a boss from La-Mulana 1 called Saki because of that extendable arm there. However, this boss is much easier to defeat. And we are picking up a very important costume here. There are a set of 5 costumes, or is it 4 costumes? It's 4 costumes that are cosmetic only and that are saved from playthrough to playthrough.
Yeah, they're permanent unlocks. So you could easily make the case that every La-Mulana 2 speedrun that is not glitchless is a New Game Plus speedrun.
Exactly.
Yeah, this costume you have to pick up every time.
It's called the Clay Doll, and that will allow us to survive in extreme temperatures, including lava. And also it'll provide a variety of other benefits. So you probably missed way back in the roots of Yggdrasil, we went to a golden rock and picked up an item called the pyramid crystal. We need that pyramid crystal in order to be able to fight this boss here, which is called, I know this name. Oh well. We need to be able to fight this boss in order to collect that item called the vessel. Amit. No, Anunnaki is the, those are like the weird crystal things you'll see around. Especially we'll see them later on in one specific area. So we just talked to Aten, or we just talked to Ra there. And if we do not talk to Horus in Gate of the Dead, we will not be able to have that cutscene there.
Yeah, so Horus warned us that it turns out Ra's actually, he's evil. Who knew?
A pretty evil dude, yeah.
Yeah, he's not great. And he's killing people and also kind of
absorbing their
absorbing
energy.
them and their power, and he's trying to become a super being. And that's bad.
So yes, essentially that wonderful clip you saw, which is a fantastic clip, it's just so cool looking. It's essentially using the Gale Fibula, which allows us to run to very high speeds, and that item allows us to clip through slopes, except with sort of an abuse of wall jump mechanics. We're able to sort of reverse jump through that in order to get to that room with Amit and, oh gosh, what's the other guy's name there? I forget. But
I forget the
we
name of the
need
person with the
0
scales.
in order to go on that scale there. In order to receive that item that we received that is called Amit's Feather, which is only necessary for one specific point, but is one very essential specific point. So right now we are going through regular La-Mulana because it turns out that 2 of the Ankh jewels are being that were restored by one of the old ancients called Phobos, and they're being sold now at this shop here. So we need those 2 Ankh jewels in order to beat the game, so I guess we have to visit him. And since we needed 0 weights in order to get the Amit's Feather, it is very essential for us to get more weights, and this will now be enough weights to last us till the end of the game. And this is another mantra that we must get in order to end the game. This is the fire mantra, and we'll be collecting some more coins here. Looks like we're having some frame drops from the RTA in Japan stream.
Oh, good. That's not just me. Just a bit of information quickly while we wait for this to clear up. So we talked a little bit earlier about what we call gale clips, where you use the gale fibula to clip through corners or through slopes, really. Fundamentally, there are 2 classes of bugs that you use in the speedrun in this game. One of those is animation is hard, where we kind of interrupt animations with other stuff. That's how we skip the item pickup or the weight placing animations. It's what we're going to use to despawn a room a little bit later on. And then there's another class of bug which you see in a lot of games, and that class of bug is math is hard. It turns out math is very, very hard, and figuring out whether 2 things intersect, really expensive to do with perfect accuracy. So
now this is a very
you can use that to clip through corners. You can also use it to clip out of bounds in the room that you you have that corridor. That's just a soft lock, so not super useful in the speedrun.
This is a very important pot clip here because this allows us to access this area.
Yeah, this one's super hard, and it's one of the hardest clips in the game. Every one of these pots, the setup is slightly different, which is great.
Oh, he
Ooh,
died there.
okay.
That's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate. I do believe that he took a safety save that he routed in for safety, for safety here. But normally that's the end of a run.
Actually warp that back there normally after collecting some of those coin pots. So there's another safety save that you could possibly do after you collect that. We collected a totem earlier on in the Immortal battlefield. That totem allows us to collect a save at those sort of gates there. It's not a save.
Looks like we're taking an extra save through that.
Yeah, we are taking an extra save here. But it allows us to warp back to that location. It doesn't count as a save, but it counts as a warp location. And he just warped back to the village in order to take an extra quick save there and restore some health. So now, hopefully, he can get this pot clip first try here, and if he fails even, he won't have to, but he got it. He got it right there.
So every one of these pots, just because, hey,
come on.
values that are
he
more
missed the
fine.
cycle there.
Oh
no.
Yeah, that's not too terrible. Getting up is still very doable. But yeah, so every one of these pot clips, because we care about values that are more minuscule than just individual pixels. We care about some sub-pixel values in our movement. Every single one of these pots ends up being slightly different for the setup, and some of them are they're more temperamental than others. And that one in particular has a tendency to kill runners.
Well, the thing is that each area of the game has unique pots, which is cool if you think about it in a sort of sense. But when you're trying to come up with sort of universal setups for these glitches, it can be really frustrating when you're trying to figure out a way that you can set up these clips in a kind of a consistent manner, but each pot for all these different areas is different.
Yeah, it's wild. It's really one of those things where if you're picking up the game as a speed run, the end of the day you kind of just have to memorize what your setup is for any individual area.
Yeah, it can be pretty frustrating. I know I spent a good number of minutes, good hour or so, practicing the clips on each individual pot where these pot clips are important. So here we are getting to, we are going to be accessing essentially one of the most broken areas of the game. There are some springs in the ruins that give you special properties. There's that spring in the village which just restores your health. There's a few springs in the ruins which gives you some extra stuff. This spring here, this specific one here, if you sit in the waters long enough, it'll restore your health, but it will also give you infinite sub-weapon ammo for the duration of the buff. I don't remember how long the buff is. Is it like 3 minutes normally?
It's either 2 or 3 minutes. It's somewhere in that range.
I believe it's 3,
what you're going to see Dagashi doing is throwing some, I think he usually uses just rolling shuriken. Basically, things that you're not going to care about losing all of.
Essentially testing to make sure that you've gotten the
There we go. In chat, it's 3 minutes without software, 5 minutes with. There's a software combo that can elongate.
And here is the fourth boss of the game. It's really a reference to what's the boss of that one? What's the name of that one boss in La-Mulana 1? Can't remember. You still need the Pochette's key in order to, ooh, he didn't get as many gunshots in this boss as he could have, but the scimitar is able to, reach upwards enough to be able to attack that boss there.
Yeah.
Guess he's gonna have to use a few more there. Yeah, that
was
wasn't
not too bad. The earliest route where we tried to avoid using the gun, you saw him using the katana strat. And yeah, as was mentioned, this is a big reference to Palink in La-Mulana 1.
Ah, yes,
And,
Palinka.
yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't the cleanest fight. You can defeat the boss before it even retreats back to the left side with 5 gunshots, but it was a little messy, but we
But
need
still,
to collect...
very, very good fight overall.
Yeah. So we were able to collect there with the item called Mjolnir, aka Thor's Hammer, which can store lightning charge. Thankfully here in the Dark Lord's mausoleum, we'll be able to... Ah yes, there is one of our... There's a normal Gale clip, as you would see.
Yeah, and that's probably the earliest one that got routed into the game.
And as you saw there, Dagashi... Oh?
Oh, we need to go back to Gate of the Dead.
Oh, did he forget to... Oh, he forgot to go to Gate of the
Horus
Dead.
is still alive for now.
Oh, that's actually unfortunate. He's gonna have to figure out... Because now he won't be able to use that gun charge in order to
so we're about to see
fight
potentially
Ra.
Yeah. So this could be a real interesting fight.
Thankfully, Aten Ra is not too difficult to beat without gun. So he needed to collect that skull there, which we had opened that chest earlier, but now we need to go to the room where Horus was, and Ra sadly decided to eat up Horus in order to gain more power. Alright, I guess that he is foregoing the gun spring, because the gun spring will not last long enough, I doubt, in order to completely... Yeah, Ra, I guess, is sort of an auto-scroller, but when you're able to use both the katana and the gun, you can definitely save some cycles. At this point in time...
There is a cycle skip if you have the gun and the katana available. The fight is routed so that you have fewer sun drops from the enemy. So right here is a really big puzzle where you're supposed to use a bunch of information that's presented to you throughout the game to figure out some mantra combinations. Dagashi decided not to do that.
And you can tell when the spot effect is still active by those kind of little light specks that are flowing off of Lumisa. However, that is definitely not going to last too much longer, so Dagashi is going to be using the scimitar in order to
moved off the gun, so we're not going to see gun strats here, which is super understandable.
But this is more of what you would see in a normal casual playthrough, if I may. Oh, he was in the center. Thankfully, each Ankh provides a quick save, which is very different from La-Mulana 1. So you spawn right at the Ankh there, so he's able to restart the fight right away.
So watching the
when
camera
you die,
feed,
you do
it looks
not
like he's
have the
laughing
spring.
that off.
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, watching the camera feed, it looks like Dagashi's just laughing that off. So,
I
not
have my
too
chat
phased by
covering
what
up Dagashi. But yeah, it is... Ra likes to drop on your head. Very much so. So here you'll be just using the normal katana strats. Looks like at this cycle there are 4 arms that will spawn. And so you need to attack each and every one of them, and then Ra will attempt to squish you on the ground, and then you'll be able to attack. especially after you die, any spring effects you have will not be saved as well. So even if he did have the spring from Ancient Chaos still active, it would be gone when he died. Alright, that's the third arm there. I believe he did attack it? No, he didn't. He missed the attack on that. I believe, yep, Ra's down. I believe it'll take one more cycle after this, though. You can have 3 slices of the scimitar, and now another 6 arms from each of the slots there in Aten Ra will come down, and I believe he should be able to finish the boss right now. There we go.
Yeah, so that's, for not having the gun available, an extremely clean fight.
Yeah, Aten Ra can be pretty frustrating. Thankfully, though, Aten Ra is very doable without the gun. There's some other bosses down the line, like a boss called Anu and a boss called Echidna, which are very frustrating if you do not have the gun. That will take much longer. Thankfully, Aten Ra, it will definitely take longer than without the gun, but it will definitely be at least very easily doable. The other ones definitely are more difficult. Alright, we are back here. Now, we did not talk much about Ratosker yet. We've seen Ratosker at a few spots, the squirrel thing being from Norse mythology. Except in the ruins, there will be 5 opportunities in which you'll be able to fight him. The one that we saw him in the normal La-Mulana setting, that does not count, but we will need to fight him 5 times in Yggdrasil. That was our second time encountering him. And if you saw as well, he used the Jed Pillar, which is used to chant mantras, in order to chant the mantra Moon in that room. As opposed to in La-Mulana 1, a lot where the most important mantra puzzles were pretty complex, and you had to follow a lot of clues in order to figure out where you had to chant each specific mantra. At that location there, there is a clue that tells you that you need to chant the moon mantra. It's not exactly that, but it equates to chanting the moon mantra in every room in which you find Ratatosker, which are 5 total rooms. So that was the third room. You don't even fight Ratatosker there, but Ratatosker grabs an item from there, from that chest. It's another of the skulls, which we will need all 12 of to complete. Okay, good. He has 1,000 coins here, which is necessary to purchase the harp here, which is the most expensive item in the game and is required to beat the game. Collecting 1,000 coins by this point can be pretty frustrating because you really need to make sure that you're collecting every single necessary coin drop from the pots in order to get.
That's that money routing that I mentioned being very, very finicky, or not finicky, but very precise. About an hour ago.
1 point of the money routing. There is another.
Yeah, there's another thing that will come up later, which is finicky.
Even more stressful. Possibly, I would say the most annoying part. Most frustrating, most annoying. I would at least consider in my runs that I do still starting off in the game. I've only been running the game for a month or 2 now. But let's just say that the money routing in this game is one of the most frustrating. Now, here's Ratatoskr again, our fourth sight of him.
Yep. So typically with Ratatoskr, you end up just manipulating his movement, but here Dagashi is just deciding to freeze time, get this fight over with quick, not worry about having to manipulate his movement, because this one in particular, you can lose a lot of time if he doesn't qualify.
Yeah, there are the first three Ratatoskr encounters are very easily manageable without time stop with the Lamp of Time. That is one location which Dagashi uses the lamp, and the next location as well, which will be a little bit later in the game, will definitely use the lamp as well. So now we are in an area called Heaven's Labyrinth. And essentially what we need here is, well, we need to get a crystal skull, which is, we need to get all 12, but there's another item here which is very essential for being
right now,
in the game.
watch the background. You're going to notice the background starts rotating. Keep that in mind, because pretty soon, after doing a couple of other things, that's going to set some flags in the game's logic. Pretty soon, you're going to see Dagashi chant sun, which is what causes the room to rotate. And then he's going to use that to despawn an entire room and skip a decent amount of content so that we can just, pick up an item a little bit early.
We chanted the mantra heaven in order to spin that mechanism there. We'll be chanting it one more time right here. And we collected an item earlier called the Ancient Battery, I believe it's called. It's something like that. And we'll be using that to unlock a chest, the chest that we really need to collect here. And then what we'll be doing is we'll be chanting heaven another time, but we'll be exiting the room and then re-entering the room to chant that again. Right here, we'll be re-entering the room and then chanting it before the thing moves, and that'll allow the room down there to despawn, and he was able to clip into the wall there, and if you see there, he was able to move left enough in the wall in order to collect an item there that is called the, it's the cog of what?
I don't know, my splits literally just say cog. It's the cog of activate the room.
It's a different name than it is in La-Mulana, but it is essentially an important cog that you need to get in order to beat the game. Another one of those MacGuffins in order to activate this thing in order to get this other item, which you need to beat the game. And here we are, now comes the really important time of coin routing. In the most ideal scenario, Dagashi would have 221 coins leaving this area. However, he's at 107 right now, and there's a 10 pot he'll be getting right there, and there's a 100 pot, so he'll be at
it's just a few off, but very, very possible that we're going to see a perfect count here. But
there will be another pot
let's talk about
of
this
10.
area, though. What would you say your favorite part of La-Mulana 1 is?
Oh,
would it be the dimensional corridor? Because if so, I've got real good news.
Okay. Yes, you'll be able to perfectly get that other coin. Oh, I guess there's a 2 coin there. So he's at 220 now, which is quite fine. Essentially, he'll be going into possibly the most difficult area in the game. You'll need to go a couple times, and there's a couple very difficult puzzles here. So we are spinning the Corridor of Blood in order to access this area called the Eternal Prison, probably the most annoying area. And he'll be needing to equip, I believe it is Sun, Moon, and what is it, Wind? It's the next one up top. But now we're in the most frustrating area of the game. This area
is
the last of the
very fun, I feel.
and it has probably the biggest puzzle of the game. In La-Mulana 1, it's the mantra puzzle that is probably the most confusing and the most difficult. Probably in this game, it is the doors in the Eternal Prison. We will not be doing that yet, because that is right at the end. Here we need to talk to Osiris in order to activate some riddles that we need to beat. This is sort of like Gate of Illusion, like it would be in La-Mulana.
Yeah. If you're familiar with Gate of Illusion in La-Mulana 1, kind of the same deal. You've got 3 puzzles that you need to solve. It's going to feel very familiar.
There's a pot there that can sometimes drop 1 coin. So we have a pot up here which will give us 100 coins, but we specifically need 401 coins in order to complete this area. If anybody is familiar with the Greek mythology of the river Styx, and also the gatekeeper named Charon, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Oh, he's going to be getting the key fairy right here, which is very important for getting... Tina mentioned earlier the item Spalder, which is in the original La-Mulana, but is not very strong.
Oh, there we go. We've got a 1-drop.
He's going to need to wait for that guy to move away, and now he's going to be moving. Oh gosh, please get that on in time. Thank you. That laser there instantly kills you if you do not have the clay doll costume equipped.
So anytime that you see these fire guys right now, they are particularly scary right up until we talk to Charon.
So we need specifically 1 coin to cross the river Styx. I believe that has... I believe there's a... it's a legend in Greek mythology that... Was it that you would put 1 coin in the dead's mouth in order to be able to pay their way across the river Styx?
Across the river Styx, yeah.
Yes. So essentially that plays out... Oh no, that's not good at all. That's not good at all that he fell there. That is extraordinarily bad. He can't enter that room again. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I'm not sure what he's going to have to do now. Falling in that room is extremely bad. Because essentially... Okay, right now he's going to be getting the death seal in this room, and you need the lightning from Mjolnir in order to get the death seal here. And so he'll be able to get that here, but the key fairy is essential for being able to get the Spalder here. And, oh gosh,
So
I think what he's going to have to do is... If you leave that door there between the in-game times of 46 seconds of 46 and 00, you will warp to the specific area. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Takamagahara.
That's not good. Dying there. Okay, so he's gonna have to go back into and fight the clone there. I don't know.
This one's rough. He's definitely you can route through this.
Oh gosh, he's gonna have to restart again because lining up that lightning strike on the clone there is kind of finicky.
It's super finicky, and you're supposed to have an item that causes your hammer to home in on enemies. He'll pick it up later.
Yeah, that is essential for
really
one specific point in time. We don't need it there, but there's one point in which we will need it. So, but leaving between the seconds 46 and 00 allows to go to Takamagahara Shrine. And the only essential item we need from there is the crystal skull. We need that in order to beat the game. So we're gonna quick grab that, and then I think what's probably gonna happen is that he is going to there is one easy area that will be able to oh gosh, yeah, don't die, please don't die. The easiest place to get fairies is the Shrine of the Frost Giants. So, okay, he's gonna be buying an essential app here called Enga Musica because there's a puzzle that you need that requires it. But what he's gonna have to do is once you talk to Freya in Anufin, Frey is extraordinarily sick, the king of the fairies. However, you might remember Freya from La-Mulana 1. Okay, I guess we're going back to this area now. Oh, no, this is... He went to the Ancient Chaos. I guess he's going to fight the Malice Gauntlet now. Because for the Malice, the first major gauntlet in Malice, you need the gun. Oh, he still had the scimitar, or the katana equipped. He should probably go to... Yeah, he should probably go to Valhalla
right now to go pick up the best whip in the game.
Yes, he's gonna go to Valhalla now to get the flail whip. The flail whip will not be as strong right now without the spalder, but now that we have the death seal, which we got from defeating our clone there, we will be able to get the flail whip, which is what he was wanting to use there, but having fallen out of that one room with Key Fairy really messed up routing.
Yeah, that
so
definitely,
he's gonna be improvising a lot here. Okay, he's gonna be because he got the flail whip now, he is actually going to be fighting another boss down here, because there's another skull down here that you need to acquire. And so he is going to be beating this boss first, this mini boss here. And he's collecting some extra lightning charges because he was going to need those lightning charges at a later point in time. Oh.
And this is another one of those bosses where you can manipulate it, and if you know what you're doing, it's way more safe than it looks, but gosh, it never isn't scary.
For this mantra combination. And so he'll be collecting this skull here, and now, well, I certainly hope he goes to get some more health first. Yeah, he's gonna be getting more health. Yeah, this is a lot of on-the-fly routing, I'm guessing. If this happens, yeah, he's going to Anufin and he's going to talk to Freya right now. Usually you would talk to Freya later in time. Usually actually around this time, so you could set up a later Key Fairy, but right now he's going to need it in order to get a Key Fairy now.
Yeah, and now's a good time, especially for anybody who's familiar with the first La-Mulana, for us to talk about fairies in this game. In La-Mulana 1, outside of some special circumstances involving software, what fairy spawns is just random. So
totally
you get
RNG.
speed runs where you just hop back and forth between rooms hoping to get the right fairy. They fixed that in this game so that now fairies are a set order. We've only got 2 fairies unlocked. We've got health and key, so it's going to potentially look like it's random and he's just, you know, working through a bunch of health fairies.
Even if you have all the fairies unlocked, the first 2 are health, the third one would be a weapon fairy, the 4th one would be a health fairy, the 5th one would be the weapon fairy, the 6th one would be a health fairy, but then the 7th fairy out of that whole set would be guaranteed a Key Fairy. So, I'm sorry, Hackster, I'm explaining it. But essentially right now, we are going to be setting up so he can get a key fairy in order to get that item that he missed, the Spalder, which is essential for damage.
So I'll be interested to find out whether he uses this key fairy to unlock the Spalder, or there's another item that you need to pick up, bombs, which also require a key fairy, which is very close to where he is right now. And there we can see that Ratatosker manipulation that I was mentioning earlier.
Yeah, it does look like he's going for bombs. I would expect him to go back for the Spalder at a later point in time, because that is...
Yeah, potentially. We'll see what happens. Spalder itself is very powerful, and it makes a lot of areas where you're using melee weapons much, much faster. But it
especially
might just
for
be
like the
that,
mini bosses.
yeah, for sure. It might be that we're gonna see a no Spalder run at this point, just because it's gonna take time to go back and get it.
I'm guessing like the mini boss where you would especially use it though is when Ratatosker turns into that
No,
one.
you use Lamp on 1.0.
Yes, but I don't know if he'll have enough damage without the Spalder here. So I guess he's probably gonna let this boss fly down below here, and then hopefully have enough damage with the Spalderless Flail Whip. I'm not sure though. I'm hoping he has enough, otherwise he's really gonna be okay.
Yeah, I would have expected this to be fine. At this point, he's done all of the puzzles that we mentioned earlier, so, well, 2 of them. He's going to go clear up that boulder, and then we're going to see finishing the last puzzle.
So we are getting an essential item here called the Scythe, which is necessary to fight one of the Guardians. So, what is he doing here?
He's forcing a fairy spawn.
It looks like he is going to get the Spalder here.
This might just be for Health Fairy to fight Finra.
Well, he hasn't fought Surtur yet.
Yeah.
Because you get the fire effect weapon from Surtur, so it looks like he is going back for the Spalder here. That's the only reason why he would set up the key fairy here.
Yeah, it looks like, oh, let it spawn.
Okay. Yeah, usually you can warp out in the middle. Usually you fight Anu and... What's the other one? Well, yeah, usually you fight Anu and then use the gun as well. Okay, yeah. Now he's waiting for... Yeah, he's waiting for... In order to warp to that room where you fought the clone, the in-game timer needs to be between, I believe it's 1 second and 18 seconds. So he needs to warp to that area in order to get to the room where he can unlock the Spalder. So he's doing that right now.
Yeah, and I think, if I recall correctly, and I have to apologize to whoever found this if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was Worse Than You who found the time correlation with where you warp. It used to just be we sort of treated it like RNG if the eyes weren't blue, which doesn't happen when you don't pick up one of the items.
All right. He's getting an extra lamp charge here. Usually, warping to the Dark Lord's mausoleum is the quickest way to get a lamp of time charge. All right. Usually at this point, so whenever we warp back to Ancient Chaos, it's usually to go rest in that spring, which gives you infinite sub-weapon, aka infinite gun ammo. So at this point in the run, as Tina mentioned before, the Hall of Malice is essentially like the Dimensional Corridor. It's a mini boss rush. And the gun definitely allows us to sort of break that area wide open. So right now, he's definitely going to be fighting through a series of mini-bosses that would normally be much more difficult, but we have the gun here, so a lot of these become trivialized, but essentially the main thing that we're worried about here is speed. I am an early runner. I've only started running this game more recently, but you need to get through this area in a relatively quick amount of time in order to be able to use the gun last boss here. And Dan Sidney is right. You do need to have at least one ammo in that weapon in order to be able to fire infinitely from it. If we had 0 ammo in the gun, we would not be able to fire it even if we did have infinite.
So there we saw one bit of safety that Dagashi does, which the first time that I saw one of his runs, I was really surprised about. We picked up the, I think it's the Nemean hide.
Yes, Nemean fur.
It basically doubles your HP.
Yeah, it essentially reduces damage, I think, by half.
It's by half.
Yeah. Time to shoot that skull with the gun.
But since it was mentioned that we really care about speed, taking the time to pick that up is it's real scary. It makes your timing much tighter.
So we need to beat this mini boss here, and then after this one there is gonna be a boss which
it's Vi.
Essentially clone of Vi. Anybody who's playing La-Mulana 1 will recognize these attacks, will recognize some of these patterns. It's like, you don't want to claim that it's a clone, it's a clone. So here we use Lamp of Time in order to be able to use enough bullets to kill the eye here. So hopefully we'll have enough time in order to, I don't remember the name of this 3-headed boss, but it's, for my runs, because I am definitely not as fast as Dagashi, I have come up with a pretty safe strat using the flail whip that is safe. But here, we're able to use the gun because Dagashi is fast as heck. And he'll be collecting an extra, coin pot there. And now we are going to be able to, once we get to the Corridor of Blood down below, we'll be able to, once Hall of Malice is activated, you can't actually use the Holy Grail to warp out. Orthos, is that the name of it? I'm not sure. That might be it.
Okay, so here's another, relatively speaking, a newer glitch. You're going to see Dagashi use the Gale Fibula here.
Ooh, oh gosh.
And then,
flying away right now, sadly.
He said he doesn't like funerals, so he's super not going to the funeral. Anyway, this gives me time to explain. He's going to use the pot to hang on with the claw. He's going to start the funeral cutscene and then leave the screen.
Oh gosh.
Or he's going to moonwalk into the funeral. That's also possible.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to wait here.
So the timing for that's pretty tight. But what you can do is you can start the funeral cutscene and then cause the screen transition to happen, at which point you get to not spend, 15 seconds of your life saying goodbye to the sage of death.
Why did he do that? I mean, at that point, he had waited long enough. It had been about the same amount of time. I don't understand.
He was trying to show off the skip, I believe.
Oh. I mean, probably the fastest way to show the skip would be to Alt F4. But, I mean, I found a visual cue of jumping back at the flower patch there. That's a good cue in order to jump back in order to skip that cutscene, because you need to enter the room and that'll start the cutscene, but if you're in there a certain amount of time, you'll be locked in the cutscene. So you need to leave the room so that you've activated the cutscene, but you can leave before you're locked in the cutscene. I guess those are different triggers.
Yeah, those are different things, because you have just a couple of frames where you can still interact before the cutscene itself makes you walk into place and then take off your hat.
Can we give Zelpud a... It's not a haircut. It's a toupee. Sadly, I don't think Dagashi will be giving Zelpud a wonderfully classy toupee. Which is sad, but speed is everything. So after we have done that, now we are going back to Ancient Chaos, and we'll be actually fighting the boss in Ancient Chaos here. So if you remember, there were some variety of things that looked like we were doing a lot, that he was doing a lot of... Oh gosh, don't... Oh gosh, he died there. Yeah, he fell into lava there. That won't waste too much time, at least.
Yeah, that one's tough. The easiest way to get out of that is just if you menu in and put on the clay doll, but even that isn't going to have saved that much time. It does, and then you swim up.
Oh, I guess that is true when you do that.
But overall, dying versus doing that, they're pretty close in terms of time.
So essentially, the first time we came to Ancient Chaos, we solved a bunch of puzzles, which we didn't really explain, but essentially that unlocked the Ankh for this area, which we'll be heading to right now. First, we'll be fighting a mini-boss called Abzu, which gives the item called gosh, what is it? Is it the Destiny? Not Destiny tablet. Something tablet.
Yeah, it's not the
Abzu.
tablets which are required.
Abzu is the a thing that's necessary for completing the Brahma puzzle. You're right. Destiny tablet, yeah. So here we'll be fighting Anu. Essentially, Anu is a space alien. That's right. There are aliens in this game. In La-Mulana 1, you sort of learn that the mother herself is an alien. Ooh. Okay, good. We got 2 shots there. Anu requires 4 shots of the gun in order to defeat. Anu will fly down 3 times before he does a really long attack, but Dagashi got a very quick 2-cycle there. 2-cycle is essentially the fastest you can do Anu there, so that was a very good fight there. So he completed that boss very quickly. So that was a very good fight. And now, using the time we still have on the fountain, there's a mini-boss here in Icefire Treetops that really likes having the gun to beat. I don't remember the name of this boss.
This is Fafnir.
I'll take your word on it. A lot of these names are based on Norse mythology or even other mythology, so I'm trusting your pronunciation. So we got an Ankh jewel there, and here we are going to be fighting the yeah. We are collecting a software here first, actually. So, the final boss of the game is what is known as the Ninth Child. However, when you start that final fight, it reduces your health to 0, which essentially means you die. There are 2 possible options in order to not die from that. There is a spring which you can collect liquid from that will give you essentially a revive.
I'm going to interrupt real quick. We're fighting Surtur, and one of the things that you're going to see Dagashi doing here is manipulating Surtur to constantly do this spit attack. And due to that, he's able to get Surtur killed before I can even finish explaining the fight.
If you fight Surtur casually, he'll probably give you a whole lot of trouble, because he'll move around, especially in 1.0. If the rocks get destroyed, you can fall off the bottom and just die.
Oh, it's real great. There was a period in time where I was trying to, instead of using the gun, use the weapon fairy for routing. And that meant that you just had to roll the dice with Surtur.
Especially, thankfully, in like modern patch, instead of falling off the map, there's a layer of the bottom, so you won't die. So the item that we got from beating Surtur is, I don't even remember what it's called. It's the flame something or other. It gives your attacks a flame effect.
Yes, and now's a good time to mention to everybody. Earlier when we were in the Eternal Prison, there are some rooms where if you have a piece of software that gives you warnings when there are hazards in a room, it'll tell you, hey, there's flammable gas in here. You will see the flammable gas explode a few times. Dagashi is going to use that to clear out rooms real fast. It's pretty loud on 1.0, so if you're wearing headphones, just a quick heads up, when Dagashi goes back to hell, it's going to get loud in a few rooms.
But yeah, the flame torque there is required for beating Fenrir. One of Loki's children in Norse mythology, and we'll be facing another of Loki's children as it later on. The Ninth Guardian is Hel, which in Norse mythology is the goddess of the realm of the dead. So Hel is in charge of the realm of the dead.
Yep, but first it looks like we're going to go ahead and clear up the Hall of Malice. We will be, I assume, fighting Echidna at this point.
Yes, we will be. We need to take out a few more mini-bosses. This one is called Chimera. And we have just completed that one. This one is something dragon. I'm not going to attempt to remember it. Oh, I don't have to imagine doing Echidna without the... That was my casual playthrough, and I absolutely loathed Echidna. Echidna was a pain. Oh gosh. Ever since I started speedrunning this game, being able to take out Echidna with a gun was just like, take that. It was just like, I feel so happy. What do you mean by Kara, Tina?
Kara is the name of the weapon fairy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Cerberus can be pretty annoying to fight. Oh? Oh, he forgot to grab another... Oh, he completely... Oh, yeah, he forgot to get the, I think he'll have enough time for the gun fairy, if I'm not mistaken. The gun... I hope.
So he's probably going to take a hard save here just in case. No, he's just going to go refill
Just
this.
gonna go... Yeah, looks like he's just gonna collect another gun fairy.
Yeah, he's going to be hitting that hot spring one more time. It's one of those things where you don't want to run out of
Cerberus
gun
can
ammo.
soft lock too? Oh boy. Well, yeah, he hasn't even collected the ice cape at all. He's totally like even skipped the ice cape. Now the lava in this area is poison llama, so eloquently coined by Zelpud the Elder. Okara can soft lock. Yeah, I did not play this game on launch, so there are definitely soft locks I do not know about.
The early routing when we were still using Kara was it was very scary because she does damage per frame, and that means that, for example, in the Jormungandr fight, you can just have Jormungandr die, and then you're on a motorcycle forever for the rest of your life.
So, like, is it like Jormungandr dies off
Dies
screen?
before he spawns.
Before he spawned? That's insane. So this is the Echidna fight, which will very much remind you of the, I can't remember names anymore.
Yeah, this is
Typhon?
very similar to the Tiamat fight.
Tiamat, yes. Thankfully, we have infinite guns, so this fight is quite simple. Way less hot, sister. Oh gosh. Essentially, if you fought Echidna without the gun, I honestly think that she is more frustrating than Tiamat, but with the gun, oh gosh, it's so satisfying. So here we get the giant flute. We are not able to communicate with the giants without that. And we learned that the La-Mulana ruins were... Oh, yeah. Here we'll be completing the 7-door puzzle here in the Eternal Prison.
Yeah, so there's a big puzzle here, and as it happens, in the speedrun, if you're on 1.0, you don't have to do it the developer intended way. There's a couple of bugs in the way that the door logic works that we take advantage of. Which, if you're playing this casually, you don't get to use.
Can this? Oh, yeah. It's because the rooms spawned by the
Restvalger.
Yeah, Restvalger fight. It does not act as intended, or as it does not act as intended. This version, sadly. Now this pot clip is a little scarier. Okay, but he got it.
Oh my gosh, that was perfect.
That was so clean.
Yeah, so that's another one of those pot clips that's very, very finicky and just really likes to crush you to death.
I still never understood all the tablets with murderous intent or soaked intent. I don't even know what that described.
Okay, so for people who have not played the game, there's a lot of puzzles in this game that is in stuff that you would read, which in the speedrun, clearly we don't. Murderous intent is mentioned. One of the MacGuffins in this game lets us absorb the malice of all of these guardians that we're killing. Sometimes you kind of see this angry face looking miasma that they spawn after they die. when you absorb all of it, you end up having the face look very, very angry and kind of like it wants to kill you, like it
I
has
mean,
murderous intent.
The text in the menu literally says die if you collect all of that miasma.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, it turns into the you need to die now.
That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in this game.
Okay, so there you saw a door lock off that Dagashi didn't go through. So that's what I was talking about in terms of sort of abusing a minor logic flaw in the game. This is going to let Dagashi take an unintended route, and it skips a bit of extra content.
Well, we would not be able to actually do this route without actually entering, like, say, would we have to enter through Icefire Treetop in order to do it?
That's what I did casually. I think that's correct. Also,
I know that's
just
what
to point
I
out
did.
for everyone, Dagashi does still have that Flame Torque equipped, which means some areas are going to explode. So this is that point where if you're wearing headphones, if you have your volume up pretty high, be aware there's going to be some explosions, and in 1.0 they're real loud.
But that's also why Dagashi collected a health fairy, because those explosions will definitely hurt you, but the health fairy will make up for it. So we need to push this pillar over. We used a bomb on a rock on the other side of that in order to be able to push that. And we used a weight up there. All of that was in preparation for this specific point in time. And we're right here. One last flame torque attack. Oh, I guess he's waiting for that guy to move away.
Yeah, those heads can they can push you into that lava, and it's not a good time.
Definitely not. Oh, he just unequipped the flame torque in order to attack that. And he re-equipped it in order to clear out the enemies in that room. And we'll use it here too? Yes, he will. But now you got
so
the
now we're
room
coming
there.
up on another glitch, which is really, really cool. It's called menu storage. Yeah, it's real fun. It's not going to happen just yet. I've got a little bit of time to explain it.
Please
We are
do.
going to be taking some intentional deaths and opening a menu proximate to that death. And we're going to use that to be in a state where we are selecting a warp and selecting to continue at the same time. The game doesn't have a case for that program, so in any given map, we can force the game to warp us to its origin point, to 0, on that map. So you're seeing Dagashi set up for that, and we should end up in a different doorway real soon here.
We'll be arriving in the Eternal Prison, the Doom side, coordinate 0. Hopefully. There we go.
So we'll see that used again a little bit later on to skip
Holy crap, he got that first try. Good job.
A lot of puzzles.
If you did not notice, there are two separate zones for two completely different and separated zones for the Eternal Prison. So he warped to the Doom area, coordinate 0 room, which is the room that we originally arrived in when we arrived via the corridor. But that room has a direct access to a skull that we need to get to in order to play the game. So that was a very clean warp there that he was able to do in order to access that point. Alright, we're coming up
on another fight where you're supposed to have an item that gives you immunity to fire damage, but it turns out that the Lamp of Time is very good.
I didn't even figure out that you were another item here. I just used the lamp here casually.
There's another really good animation.
これは、あれですね、
Oh yeah, he's getting another lamp charge
ラ
here.
ンダムに飛ぶって言ったんですけど、これを
Lamp
取
of
ることに
time
よって、
charge.
敵の方に
So we have defeated the or we've defeated 8 guardians, and the 9th guardian is Hell, who conveniently warped us out of the eternal prison. However, we're going to do a couple other necessary things before we beat that boss. Shoutouts to the best NPC in the game, Caro, from Carol Blaster. Shoutouts to Carol Blaster. That's a wonderful game. No bias whatsoever. Complete bias.
これは、最後に使います。
And we purchased another software there called Rose and something, which is another game that Nigor made back in the day. We purchased another software before in Icefire Treetop, which is the moving company.
Okay, so here's another math is hard clip. This is extremely difficult and very
This one's
punishing when you
annoying.
don't get it.
もう何回もね、やってるんで、
This skips another pretty big puzzle, but it's you use the Gale Fibula to clip
Third try's real good.
back, and he got there right there, and now we're off to yes, it's Nibiru,
Yes.
aka where the Anunnaki came from. We've been collecting all these skulls, and I guess these skulls are from that race of the Anunnaki.
Yep, and we're gonna find out pretty soon here that they're also pretty mad basically all the time. This is one of the stories really that you get in this game is what if all of the guardians from La-Mulana 1 were always angry forever?
This is probably the most, I could say the most annoying part of the speedrun, but I think that's underselling how annoying this is casually too.
Yeah,
In
this
one point-
area is tough. Everything wants to hurt you. One of the things that you're going to see Dagashi doing is called quick swimming. If you swim and then on the same frame you use an item, it increases the speed with which you swim. So we're seeing him use that to get some pretty good horizontal speed. And the speed that you gain kind of tapers off pretty quickly too. You've got a 3 or 4 frame window to get any speed at all. But
yeah,
Dagashi's pretty good at it.
You're using that attached item right now, the skull. However, this is not a normal version. So if once you get to this area casually, you are moving so slowly through this area. It's so tedious. I mean, not to say this isn't tedious in a speedrun either. You need to dodge all these enemies while using the skull. It's just, this is not a
Yeah,
fun.
but Dagashi is just really good at this section of the game in particular. There's a lot of speedruns where, you know, there's this area where it's not visually interesting, but it's super impressive to a runner. Watching Dagashi in this area always impresses me.
Oh yeah. Logra Spike is quoting some of the there's a software that you get that's called Skull if you talk to one of the ancients, Phobos, at a certain point in time. Obviously, we'll not see that at all in this run, but you learn that the Anunnaki was one of the races that came upon the ruins very early. And all of their skulls have a specific sort of text to them. But if you read those, you will learn that these skulls of the ancient race Anunnaki, well, they're sort of the first children, because you have the snake people that are the first children, but the Anunnaki sort of came from space as well. So they're sort of first children, but they're sort of not, at least in my understanding. I could probably be very well wrong. But reading the flavor text for all those skulls is quite entertaining.
Yeah, they start off kind of like
very
benevolent and formal, and like they're speaking, the way that deities are often speaking in religious texts, and then they just slowly but surely degrade into yelling and berating the people to whom they're talking.
They definitely degrade into your normal English text too. It's quite hilarious. Yeah, the Anunnaki are not quite the first children. They are visitors, but they're very influential in the development of the ruins. So now we are fighting the 9th Guardian, which is... Oh no, he used the gun.
Oh, he didn't have the spring. So he's going to be reverting to a save here.
Yeah.
He went for the spring. I guess he didn't actually get the spring effect.
Oh, he did go to Ancient Cast, right? I can't remember.
How's his gold? He's got enough gold for this one, but he needs to find 50 more gold.
Well, because he has... Oh, I guess he's going back to a prior... I hope this is the right save. No?
He might have some safety saves.
Yeah. He probably didn't sit the spring long enough, Ragros. You're right about that. Because that is definitely something to worry about. It's not fun. I mean, this save has the Mjolnir equipped, so likely it would be coming from Nibiru, the space, aka the Anunnaki's spaceship.
There we go. We've got the spring effect this time.
All right. Yeah, because you'll be using the flail whip a little bit versus hell here, but you will mostly be using the gun. I will say a lot of these. This is especially one of those fights that I would say still pretty fair without the gun.
Yeah, so all of these boss fights, it's worth pointing out, with the exception of Fafnir and maybe Vitra, I think also Vitra, have an easy and a hard fight, depending on how many guardians you've already killed. They plan for a lot of variance in terms of the route that the player might take, even casually. And the hard fight for this, which is what we're seeing here, is very, very fun.
I guess I didn't know about that there was an easy and a hard. This boss is Hel, aka in Norse mythology, one of the children of Loki. And she, in Norse mythology, is queen over the underworld, born half alive and half dead, which you can see sort of from her half fleshed out body and half decayed body. So now, after we went to Nibiru, we activated the Corridor of Blood. We used those Corridor of Blood segments in order to get to a bunch of different areas, but it is essential for unlocking the final area of the game.
Yeah, also you can fill them with blood that you harvest from guardians.
Yeah, how pleasant. What did he do? Did he clip out?
He just clipped out. So that soft lock that I mentioned earlier, where you can clip out of.
What was that animation? What's that animation? Oh my gosh!
It's real good when you.
Did you see that Lumisa animation? It's like so tiny. What was that?
The top part of her sprite got clipped off.
Holy cow! I've never seen this before. I have not seen a lot of like old runs when they first started running on 1.0. I only started running in the last month or two. Whereas Tina started running this game back from the start, so she's obviously seen a lot more of the history of this run than I have.
Yeah, I've been running this game since I actually took time off of work to marathon the game when it first came out, and after the first week, I started working on the speedrun.
That's incredible.
So that hill right there that Dagashi just hit is really, really good for accidentally clipping out of bounds if you jump just right.
So wait, did he jump just right? He didn't use like a costume clip or anything like that, right?
No, he jumped just perfectly to do a math is hard clip and end up out of bounds.
I'm gonna need to look at that spot in the run again just on my free time just to figure that out. That's hilarious. Those animations were definitely unique. So right now, what we have to do is align all of the Crown of Blood corridors in order to form a perfect.
Yeah, so we're forming a six. Yeah, it's a Star of David that we're forming. So, like many Japanese games, the Star of David is often used as one of those like, here's your magical symbol, and this is no stranger to that.
I mean,
so we're aligning all of these corridors, which sets the flag for the ruins changing a little bit. At which point we can basically make our way to the last parts of the game.
And now we have completed all of the alignment of the Crown of Blood. Why is this taking a while to animate? Because the timer's still moving. What happened here? Oh no. Don't tell me it's soft locked from.
This one's weird. I have not seen this one before.
Because I'm seeing the timer move, so we're not dropping frames from the original stream. Is he gonna have to Alt F4?
Yeah, it looks like he might have just Alt F4'd.
I haven't seen it. Oh yeah, the border is gone. Holy crap, what is going on? This game is a little bit buggy in 1.0 if you haven't been able to tell.
So while we're waiting for this to get taken care of, I want to point out Dagashi and camera laughing this off. When things start going wrong, being able to have that sort of composure is immensely impressive.
This game is just a little bit broken, and there are some blocks that just surprise you. I will admit that, like, in a recent run of mine, I managed to soft lock on the second phase of the final boss, and I was going like, that's a thing? That's a thing. Okay, I guess I soft locked on the final boss.
Oh gosh, yeah, so I'll talk about that real quick.
Gosh.
Used to be that we would try and use the gun on the final boss of this game.
I mean, we still do.
Which is real fun. In parts. There's a couple of spots where if you hit the final boss with a gunshot at just the right time, he leaves. He like floats off to the right side of the screen and is gone forever. It just says, if you're bringing a gun to this fight, I'm out.
Oh no. How much far back do we need to go?
I'm not sure.
Because if you had to Alt F4 the game, you couldn't use quick save. Oh my gosh. I guess he has
so
to
we're probably going back to the hell fight then. That's gotta be what's up.
Yeah.
So we lost, all told, probably about 5 minutes here. Not the worst thing in the world. And this is, definitely one of those things that just ends up out of your control.
Alright, and he's gonna be redoing this 9th Guardian fight, and then he'll be redoing all the sections here with the Corridor of Blood.
Yeah,
So that will take a
at
little
this
bit of
point,
time to do.
we can probably let the commentary sit, let everybody enjoy some of this game's amazing music,
まず最初
and then
は動かないんで
we'll pick
リ
back
スト
up
を
when
引いて
he's got the
倒し
corridor
ます
aligned and we see that cutscene that normally is not supposed to be just a black screen.
あれ浅かったかなあ、こっちだあー上行っちゃったあ、降りたいやーいや強かったですねなんか2回戦った気がしますけど頼むよもうフリーズは許してくれこのゲームね長時間やってるとね結構バグっていうかやばいの引くんでもしかしたら1回リセットかけたことによって症状が改善してる可能性はありますねおそらくですね、メモリーリークしていると思われます。これユニティで動いてるんで、結構やばいんじゃないかなと思うんですけど。ここまで来たら戻って。さあ頼むよおかしいな Windows 7のクソ PC でやってる分には問題なかったんだけどななんでこんないい PC でフリーズしてしまうんだ
All right, so we are just about done with realigning those corridors. Hopefully we're going to see a cutscene here. Oh, that's much better.
There we go.
All right, so now we are in the end game. The ruins are kind of going to start falling apart. If you've played La-Mulana 1, that's not a super big surprise. The game tells us right now, hey, you should probably go to that boat that you, if you were playing casually, you would have already seen it and walked by it and thought, I would like to get up there. So we're going to see that happen now, but not the way that you would normally expect that to happen. Casually, there's a couple of very specific puzzles that you've got to do. In this case, we do still have to go kill Heimdall, which is what Dagashi's about to do. And then we're going to see our second instance of one of those menu storage glitches. We're going to use that to warp straight to the boat.
So essentially, you've seen us go through some doors which have a number of lights on them. You're able to access those doors when you've killed that number of guardians. So there is a 9-door in order to, when you're doing a casual playthrough, access that area. However, using that death menu storage glitch, it so happens that that spiral door area happens to be coordinate 00. You need to do one thing first. here.
Yep. So we're gonna pick up the treasure of life, straight out of La-Mulana 1.
The exact treasure that Lamisa collects from the mother right at the end after beating the mother.
Okay, so here we've equipped all of the mantras, which is called Overwhelming Power. If you haven't done some of the other puzzles in the game, it kills you, which is really, really good when we want to do menu storage work.
Okay, so that one didn't work. I'm still not, like, quite certain of how this, okay, I guess that one worked?
Yep. So it's all about this very, very short period where you have access to button inputs while you're dying.
Why do you equip Sun and Moon? That's for the third. Sun and Moon is the mantra combination, third phase of the final boss. You need to equip Mother and Child in order to access this final area. Now, for those of you who have played the first game and explored the first game to its extent,
Yeah,
this
if you've played
definitely
through
a
Hell
shout
Temple,
out to that first
yeah.
area, to the first game.
Yeah, when I was playing this casually, having done Hell Temple blind, I was real scared, honestly. I was extremely scared at what Naramura was going to be throwing at me here.
I will say I was a little disappointed in the area knowing some about Hell Temple. I will say that I was one of those folks that definitely looked up a lot of stuff in order to beat La-Mulana 1 for the first time. And looked up a lot of stuff to be able to access this. The Hell Temple is a secret area in La-Mulana 1. Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all.
So, in later
Dagashi.
versions of the game, the door locks there. You're not supposed to be able to leave. Thankfully, in 1.0, that's not the case.
Well, I mean, Dagashi also had time stop activated, so that might have affected it too. I mean, that was a boss that you saw there that you only fight in before you fight Aten Ra in the Dark Lord's mausoleum. But yeah.
Yeah, so casually you'll definitely recognize that boss. There's a bunch of bosses that will show up here that they're throwbacks to having killed the bosses otherwise.
But yeah, this is a direct reference then to the Hell Temple in La-Mulana. However, this area is definitely stripped down on a puzzle aspect.
Yeah, this is very much the Hell Temple
and on a
as it
trap.
has already been solved.
I'll say that, like, I was expecting more. There are a lot of traps in Hell Temple and La-Mulana, and I expected there to be more traps in this version. But from what I understand as well, this La-Mulana 2 was funded by Kickstarter.
Yes,
and
it was, and there was a stretch goal to have a harder Hell Temple, which unfortunately did not get met.
Well, I've heard, are they still going to be working on that one area?
I don't believe so, no. Spring in the Sky is like kind of hinted at in the game itself, but I don't believe that at this point they're likely to be adding more content along those lines.
That's sad. That'd be super cool. But essentially,
But now we're coming up on the final boss of the game. If you played La-Mulana 1, you might remember the final fight. There was a little child who was a little bit sad, kind of crying a
で、
little
なんで
bit.
それがいるかっていうと、ここで
Um,
全マントラ、
well,
この
that
ラスボス
child
側が全
is
マントラを
now
打たなきゃいけないん
in.
ですけど、
That
死ぬん
was
です。
the ninth child.
A very
Nande,
angry child.
先ほ
Yes,
どの
the
アプリ
race
を
that
使
was
う
going
こと
to
によって
replace
その
humans.
脂肪を
But that
くぐり抜け
child
る
is
と
now in the
いう
zeroth
ことをやっ
body,
てます。
which is a reference to one of the tablets in La-Mulana 1. And, well, you know, he's having a bad day.
ラスボスの解説すらできねえな。
So as I was referencing earlier, Dagashi had excellently equipped the mantras of Sun and Moon, which you need to use in this phase of the game to expose this phase's weak spot, which he successfully used and killed with 2 gunshots. And now this is the final phase, which in 1.0 has a surprisingly low amount of HP. The gun just absolutely
it
obliterates.
goes real quick in 1.0. It got buffed in later patches, but in 1.0 you can just really mop the floor with this guy if you've got the gun.
で、最後に
So we need to use that mask that we had collected way earlier, and that will finish this boss.
このバージョンだとその
And now it's just time for the escape
に対し
sequence.
ての HP のロックがかかってないんで、一気に
It's
削
a
り
it's a
切れる
Metroidvania. There has to
なので、こう
be
して
sequence.
特に見せ場もなく、ラスボスを倒すことができます。
So, speaking of 1.0 glitches, you're about to have the floor start moving. That's the last big soft lock in this game. If you walk off of that floor because you think, this is La-Mulana, it's gonna kill me, you just soft lock.
Wait, if you walk off to the right, it soft locks you?
Yeah, it's a soft lock.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad I never tried that.
アンケートを取らせてもらっていて、で、養成所を救出エンディングという
So
方に
now we
進み
must
ます。
escape from Spiral Hell, as it's called in the game. I feel like I've only referred to it as Hell Temple, but it's called Spiral Hell in this game.
で、救出しない
And
場合
then
は、ラスボス
you need to
倒
reach
して
the
相手
outside,
が固まった段
and
階から
thankfully,
約1分半で脱出しきることができます。
there is an access to outside from
なんで、多分
where's Dagashi going?
まあ、ざっくりですけど、まあ、1時間16分か17分ぐらいですかね。で、終わる。
Looks like Dagashi is going to take us on a tour.
Yeah, I guess. Is Dagashi gonna save the? Is Dagashi gonna save Freya?
Oh, we might be saving Freya.
I'm trying to think of but how would you get into a new fin from here? Wouldn't this be the wrong way to go? So, definitely Dagashi is going on a different route. You would be going in a separate direction in order to finish the. I'm guessing Dagashi is already overestimated, so he wants to show some stuff off. He had a lot of unfortunate things happen too, so. Oh, is this mini boss gonna show up?
Yep. If you
Yes,
approach
it
from the
is.
right side, you soft lock. I have done that trying to save Freya in a speedrun where you don't fight.
So yeah, that's a mini boss in order to access this area of the game. So there's an achievement for saving Freya. And here we are back in a new fin. And we're going to be saving Freya and then going back down to Immortal Battlefield, because that is where we'll be able to finish the game. And you see all those snake-like white things there. I can't even remember the name of those things. What were those called again?
I don't remember.
They're essentially the frost giants. Yeah, Jotuns. It's the in Greek mythology, or not Greek, in Norse mythology, those are essentially the ice giants. So sadly, Frey has died trying to fight off those Jotuns, but we have talked to Freya, and so she will now be able to escape. And now Dagashi will be leaving the ruins.
Yep, now it's our turn to beat a hasty retreat.
Definitely. I still think he's still going to be beating both of our PBs, you know? Because yours is like a 224, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he's still
I'm
going
at
to
the point
be...
where I'm probably going to come back, though. The route has developed really a lot since I last played, and I miss it. I miss this game. It's real fun.
I am definitely looking forward to you coming back, because I could use some competition. I have been... I did not realize that Dagashi was still practicing, so I thought I was the only active runner at this game. But now that I saw Dagashi was derusting this game, I guess I am not the only active runner. But if Tina comes back, alright, and now this is time.
Yep.
We have escaped the ruins.
So overall, still an immensely clean run. Few things that were super unfortunate that happened, but just overall fantastic run from a great runner. Somebody who everybody should definitely be following. And yeah, stay tuned for more RTA in Japan, everyone.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the marathon. La-Mulana 2 is an amazing game. If you want to check out this game, I would very honestly recommend you check out La-Mulana 1 first. The remake game on Steam. It is such the incredible puzzle platformer and Metroidvania. And I would just say, don't be afraid to look up hints and stuff for that. It's a very difficult game to beat blind. But I would really recommend you playing that and playing La-Mulana 2 as well. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the marathon.